So I always start with a bunch of loose, fast sketches, just trying to figure out pose, what I might want to do. I already knew that I was going to draw Twinkle Mermaid. I have an inspiration folder that's full of like coordinate shots, old AP ads, street snaps, and I usually go through that to figure out what I want to draw. It really helps to have that kind of reference for how the clothes look, how the clothes fold, what Lolita looks like when you're sitting, standing, jumping, etc. So I always go through that first, and then I'll start drawing. I actually figured out this pose pretty quickly compared to my usual process. It takes me like 4 or 5 sketches to figure out something that I want to do. But as you can see, I played around with the leg placement a few times before finally figuring out what to do. Luckily with Lolita dresses, they really cover so much of the leg that it's easy to fudge it a little bit. So I bring all my references in on screen. I just find it easier to look at that way. You can use Pure Ref or anything else, but I just find it simpler to have it right there. So I usually do a few layers for anatomy, and then a layer for the clothing, and then I just keep doing sketch layers until I've really figured it out and I'm satisfied with all the elements and their placement, and I start doing the liner after that. I'll often have anywhere between like 8 to 20 layers of sketching just because I prefer to work by building up, so I can go back to any step that I want if I decide that I'm not happy with how it's turning out. Obviously, those shoes did not exist when Twinkle Mermaid came out, but I did not want to draw tea parties. They're not that princessy, even if they're very cute. I wanted a heel. The shell as the background was inspired by the print itself, since it has a clam with a pearl on it. On the actual dress, the pearl is sewn into the print, which is just such a cute little detail. Honestly, Twinkle Mermaid is a super detailed dress. It's hard to capture in photos. The cotton is striped, so it's a pink with a slightly darker pink, and there's the pearls that are sewn in, the ribbons, the tulle that's along the hem of the skirt and on the detachable bow has dots, like darker pink dots on it. It's just a really amazingly designed dress. You know, it really represents that transitional period between sweet and old school, and that's why I love it so much. As you can see, it kind of took me a few tries to figure out what I wanted to do with the eyes. I've been practicing my anime eyes, obviously, by drawing Lolita, but I haven't exactly figured out my own style yet. So it usually takes me a few tries to figure out what I'm doing for each particular piece. And I'll be doing my whole drawing with the hard round pressure default brush in Photoshop. That's pretty much all I use. It's the easiest one for me to use. Struggling with hands. Yeah, I should have looked at a reference, but honestly I could not be bothered this time around. Shame on me. So I did lose some footage. I lost some of the coloring, and just now I lost doing the line art for the hair, but it's honestly, you know, not missing that much. Just alternating between bigger and a smaller sized version of the same brush. So I'm not really sure what I had in mind with this particular drawing. Like I said, the clam was kind of inspired by the one on the print, but I don't know, maybe she's like a magical princess and she sits in her clamshell and she can only come out when someone opens it, but who knows, maybe this time the person who opened it is not as cute as you want them to be or something like that. So I love that kind of grumpy look on Lolita's. It reminds me of old school dressing for yourself and not to look good for anyone else. And I love it in sweet as well, in all styles. I think it just looks very cute, to get all dressed up and then refuse to look happy for other people. So yeah, I was not really aiming for accuracy with this clam, just the general shapes. I end up doing it lineless later, and that's what I had in mind, so I just wanted to have a basic understanding of what the clam would look like. My line art is not really clean enough to use a bucket tool, so I tend to paint a lot of stuff in by hand, which slows things down, but it's a little relaxing. Honestly, rendering or coloring is not really my favorite part of drawing. I would say it's my least favorite part. I like sketching and doing the line art the most. Before I started drawing Lolita, honestly, I mostly just doodled. I almost never finished drawings, but Lolita actually inspires me to do finished pieces. So that's been a major plus, I feel like I've been able to improve my coloring a bit, even if it's still relatively simple. I've been trying to use more variety in hues as I draw, instead of just changing the saturation when I'm doing like the shadows or the highlights or whatever. I always start by coloring the face though, because it's my favorite part, though maybe I should start leaving it for last, but it gives me like a little boost of inspiration. And yeah, again, I'm just using the hard round brush. I just kind of play around with the opacity and the hardness as I go to suit my needs, but I'm not trying to do something that's like perfectly blended. I think when it comes to the gloves and the socks, I could have definitely used a lighter gray. For the petticoat too, it's a little dark. So I always change my line art color. I tend to go for like a blue or a dark purple or a dark red, and then I add a darker color where the shadows are, and I add a lighter color where some of the highlights are, like usually on the dress and across the highlights of the hair. I think it gives kind of a nice glowy quality to the drawing, and it helps like emphasize the line art a bit, since there's different areas for you to look at. Actually, I'm pretty happy with how this clam turned out all in all. I thought it was going to look a lot coarse, having that good reference. I say good reference, but it's a stock photo of a clam. But reference is important, and always have it, especially for your hands so they don't turn out looking like little sausages like mine. This pearl, I mean, I don't think drawing Precious gems is my forte. I think it could have turned out worse, but hopefully next time I draw a pearl, it will be even better. Since it was in the background, I honestly wasn't, well, semi in the background, I honestly wasn't paying it that much mind. I've been trying to challenge myself to, draw faster and more efficiently. I generally am a very slow drawer. I just get distracted. I start to look at other things. I have to switch tabs every 5 minutes. So really focusing and having a goal in mind has helped me improve and become quicker. Doing commissions has helped me improve a lot too, because you are on a deadline and you really want to get what you're drawing out to the person who's paying you. So for the background, I was mostly inspired by the Angelic Pretty ad for Twinkle Mermaid. It's such an iconic piece of Lolita history, and that kind of minty blue, the gradient, the pearls, the bubbles, all of that is included. That ad is super OTT, it's very cute, it's very AP, and I think it really helped sort of push what they were going to become or what their aesthetic was going to be forward. You can really identify it easily in the Twinkle Mermaid ad. It's one of my favorite pieces of AP history. Yeah, I drew all of those dots and then I undid all of them. For backgrounds, I try and keep it pretty simple. The dress and the coordinate is usually visually quite busy, so I think using simple shapes, simple color in the background is the best way to go, and I tend to do muted colors compared to the drawing. That's the advantage of pastels, I guess, is it's not too strong on the eye. So I saved drawing the print for last out of sheer laziness. Usually if it's a really, really complicated print, I will draw it first to get it out of the way. I think the most complicated print I've ever drawn was Sugary Carnival, and it was one of the first Lolita drawings I did, so it took me like a whole day to redraw it, but I learned a lot from it. I'm just kind of being loose with, what the actual print looks like for this one, because I know I'm gonna have to change the proportions and warp it a lot to get it to look like it's folding with the dress. So accuracy is not something I'm too worried about here. And since this drawing was just for personal fun and not for a commission or anything, it doesn't really matter that much. Thankfully, this print isn't really too complicated. Drawing really, really complicated prints, I remember drawing French Cafe. It took me forever too, because that print is very rendered. There's a lot of detail in the painting. Since Twinkle Mermaid is screen printed, it's really just 3 colors and that's it. So I just use the perspective and the warp editing tools to kind of get everything in place as much as possible. It's never gonna look exactly like the dress, but as long as it looks like it's folding with the dress, that's what matters to me. It's hard to be 100% accurate, and sometimes I fudge the proportions of the print to make it look more appealing in a drawing. So this is slowly coming to an end. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you like this drawing. I'm pretty happy with how it came out overall. I'm happy with the background. I think I made some fun choices with that and with the color scheme. So let me know what you think of the drawing and my kind of cutting corners lazy drawing process. I hope you liked it, and here is the finished product. Thank you so much for watching.